I'm Brandon from Bleeding Through. I sing.
In the 90s, you were part of the Southern California metalcore explosion.
Yeah.
You formed 18 Divisions.
Yeah. And Throwdown, don't forget about that.
Talk a little bit about your years, I guess, in the hardcore scene.
Orange County and Southern California had a really big hardcore scene, and it was like something that was very infectious for me and a lot of my friends. And you know, with bands like Outspoken and Mean Season, Unbroken, Ignite, Strife, like the list goes on, Chain of Strength, like all these bands that we got to see, and it was awesome. It was a fun time to go to shows and everything. And then all of a sudden, everything stopped, and all those bands disappeared. And whether or not they were straight edge and sold out, or they just wanted to stop doing hardcore because they were getting older. And back then, there wasn't such thing as like a band going on tour and making a living at it. So, you know, it seemed to stop like in the mid 90s all at once, like 98, 96. I mean, 95, 96, like leading up to like 98. And it was like this really like bleak time when like all these new bands were trying to come up and like new styles were being like kind of formed, and you know, there's a lot of like post-hardcore going on, and that was like the big thing, is like all these post-hardcore bands are touring together, and like post-hardcore is like the cool thing, and you know, and like all the hardcore kids were just like, all right, well, what the fuck's for us? And so that's when myself and a lot of friends of ours started bands like Adamantium, 18 Visions, Throwdown, even bands like Death by Stereo, and a lot of those bands, and we started playing like shows like at each other's houses. Then it moved to libraries, and then it moved to record stores, and then finally we get into clubs and play with like a lot of these like post-hardcore bands that were around back then. And kids started coming out, and it was almost like, I'll still say today, the one band that saved hardcore in Southern California was Throwdown, because when they came around, it brought like fun back to going to shows, and it brought like sing-alongs and all that kind of stuff, like where Strife left off, and they kind of like stopped, and there was a good like 3 or 4 year gap where there wasn't a band like that. So Throwdown kind of came along and kind of like started that, and then through those bands started bands like Bleeding Through, and I don't know, like Atreyu, and you know, 18 Visions was around for a long time and stuff like that. And we just really wanted to make Orange County noted for like starting like heavy music, but with like a little bit of a metal edge to it, sort of like where Unbroken left off. Where people say Unbroken is like, you know, hardcore, crucial, but if you really fucking listen to Unbroken, they're playing Slayer riffs. It's just the drummer sucked, so he couldn't play Dave Lombardo's beats. Let's just put it that way, alright? So, you know, but that's the shit that I was into, stuff like Mean Season and Unbroken, like fucking metal riffs and shit, but like still the hardcore feel to it. So then we decided just to kind of like build that up in Orange County, and kind of led to what we have now.
Do you think 18 Divisions could have continued on with the heavy sound and done well for themselves?
Well, I was mostly responsible for the heavy sound because I was writing the guitars for them at that point. I was in Throwdown, Bleeding Through, and 18 Visions at once, and I was playing guitar in Throwdown and 18 Visions. I quit Throwdown because I wanted to do Bleeding Through more on a regular, and I wanted 18 Visions to remain heavy, and I really think that it could have been, you know, the kind of style that we were was comparable to like where Every Time I Die sort of took the torch and had success with. Every Time I Die definitely does it better than 18 Visions ever did, because they're just better. But you know, I really think that 18 Visions, if I would have kept on writing the riffs and we were all on the same page, we could have done something with it. Once they started to write rock and roll type, Stone Temple Pilots type stuff, I just wasn't into it anymore. It just wasn't my attitude, and you know, I never had the rock and roll fantasy. I never wanted to, you know, to tour with bands like Daughtry and Nickelback. Those were never aspirations of mine. Like, you know, I'm stoked that we're playing in front of this many people tonight. You know, it's something that's like cool, but it's still cool, and it's like a privilege. It's never just expected. And I think their attitudes changed a little bit to wanting it and really going for like a fucking mega stardom. And never really cared for that much, so it's easier, less stress when it's like this.
One band from SoCal which you didn't mention, which was Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah.
I actually saw you guys play at Café Lenco in Montreal.
Jesus, that was so long.
Some crazier, I don't know, funny, embarrassing moments from that tour that you remember?
It's funny because on that tour, we played a lot of shows with like a lot of like local hardcore bands, like wherever we were. And we were on stage and people calling us like faggots and all that kind of stuff. And it never really like bothered me too much, you know what I mean? Like I'm not like, just because I don't look the same as like Johnny Hardcore. I'm not gonna fucking like be like called a faggot. You know, if they really want to say something, just say it to my face and see where it goes from there. You know, like it's cool. But that's, you know, that's one thing I could say is that it wasn't easy for a band like Bleeding Through to kind of have somewhat of success, because we always were like sort of different, and there's always been scrutiny towards us. But we've stayed the same like through it all, and I don't know. I guess that has to prove something. I don't know.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, we're a lot of bands. Like, I remember we played a show at No Warning a long time ago, and they got up on stage and they started talking shit on us and this and that. And, you know, I even like the band. I think they're a great band. I have all their records, and I think they're fucking awesome. But they got up on stage and started talking shit about blah blah blah, true hardcore, and now look at them. They wear fucking tiger pants and cowboy boots and shit. So fucking whatever.
Yeah, the current issue with Trustkill Records.
Yeah.
Why do record labels, independents, who claim to be so in touch with the kids, with the scene, with the band's needs, become so shady with time?
Because they all have fucking egos like they're a major label, because they all started selling records. Just hands down what it is, you know? I mean, you look in like the early 90s and like, you know, mid 90s, even fucking late 90s. A record label like Trustkill, the most they would have sold would be like 20,000 records. You know what I mean? Most Victory would have sold. I remember, I mean, everybody remembers how big Earth Crisis was at one point. Dude, fucking, let's see, what was their, I think I got like a stat on like their biggest selling record. Like Destroy the Machines only sold like 80,000 records. And like to this day and age, that'd be a disappointment. Earth Crisis, when Destroy the Machines came out, they couldn't go anywhere with having a fucking packed out building. You know what I mean? So it was like, it's once like more kids started getting into this sort of like music, into hardcore, or, you know, whatever the subgenres may be, once the music started crossing over, records started selling more. And so independent record labels like started whipping out their dicks and having measuring contests with each other about like, oh, well, fucking this record sold 150,000. Well, I have a gold record. And it's like, congratulations, like you're finally making money doing your record label, which is fine, because anybody who starts a business, you want to be able to live out that business so you can enjoy it. You know what I mean? You don't want to fucking struggle. But at the same time, it's like, I think they were so used to running it in a way where they didn't have to pay up royalties and they didn't have to do this before, so now they're selling all these records, they don't know how to keep their books. And so they don't know how to pay royalties, they don't know how to support bands, and it's just, it turned into this really horrible, like, thing. I don't know, like, I just think independent record labels just got ahead of themselves and started giving their record label to, like, major label distributions and like losing power of things, you know what I mean? So I think that's like pretty much where it's at.
So what's your future on the label?
Well, this is our last record on Trustkill. Trustkill's only putting it out in North America. We actually tried to get them to not put it out even in Canada. We just wanted the US and try to get someone else in Canada to put it out, but I know they wanted Canada too, which is unfortunate because Trustkill, I don't know. In the U.S. and Canada, it's not going to have good distribution. It's not going to have promotion. It's just because he's so fucking out of money. It's ridiculous. So he just, I could go on all day and whatever. But you know, after this record, it's going to be a unique situation because the record industry is hurting so bad, and you hear about it every week. People get fired. Record companies like dissolve or merge because they dissolve, and you know. But in a year from now, or a year and a half, when we're ready to do another record, we're in a kind of unique situation because we're like a free agent band, but we're not like a new band. We're a proven name. We've proven we can sell records. We've proven we could like draw people to clubs. We've proven like touring everywhere, and it's gonna be like interesting. It's gonna be like a fresh start almost. But I don't know what we're gonna do. Licensing is a possibility, like owning our own masters and kind of like taking destiny in our own hands. And because it's like, what does a record label do these days that you can't do on your own? It's almost weird because I kind of see it like reverting to like really DIY fucking early 90s way of music right now. It's really strange.
You have any friends or bands you want to give a quick plug to?
You know, for a long time we've been waiting for like a lot of like more like bands from Orange County, Southern California to spawn up. A band called Stick to Your Guns, a band called Blood Runs Black. There's like smaller bands like The Ghost Inside and this band called Oblige. That are really good. So I mean, yeah, if you get a chance to check those bands out, like there's a band called Final Fight from where we're from. They're more like just like, I guess, crucial hardcore, but they're really fucking good dudes, and yeah.